I mentioned I'm prepping for a class this fall on Morrison, my way of honoring a woman who had the privilege of having as a professor when I was an undergraduate. And I do a unit on Morrison and co-creation, what it means for the writer or the historian or the poet to be a co-creator, to be a part of a process of bringing something and emerging out of nothing. It is both scientific, but it is also artistic, and it is also so beautifully, as Farah just said, an act of divine imagination. And I think that's what we lack. We lack divine imagination as part of our solution to crises that we think will only be solved by science. And they can't be, and they won't be. We need them, but they need us. And Morrison reminds that of us again and again. She's unapologetic in her support for the arts, for the interdisciplinary nature, the ateliers, the acting, the fine art. She's unapologetic that she wasn't just a writer, but a supporter of what it means to call out the imagination in all of us in order to tell the truth.
Yeah, I mean, there were plenty of times when I would see the announcements for the work in the ateliers where I would think, oh man, I would kill to be in this class. Or I would do anything, everything from the music to the dance, bringing in the social sciences to think about all of these things. I mean, just an incredible mind. And again, it's part of what we try to do as humanists, to use our imagination to figure out how we can enact human flourishing. How can we make it possible for everyone to coexist in the space? One of the little pieces in The Origin of Others where she tells that story about how someone becomes a foreigner or a stranger. And it was so clear that in the latter parts of her life, especially, she was always thinking about what it means to belong. And I think part of what the humanities helps us to see and to think about is how belonging is possible for everyone. It doesn't have to have these restrictions. You don't have to stay on the other side of it. So those are some things that I think we've been thinking about in relation to the cross-disciplinarity, the interdisciplinarity, the multidisciplinarity of the humanities. The thing that I also liked, and I think that you all will agree, liked about Ms. Morrison especially too, was her swag. So this final piece that we're going to show is pretty well known, but still, I think thinking about her saying, oh, I was, perfectly fascinated with myself, and I absolutely knew that where I was far more interesting than anywhere else. So Catherine, if you can pull that one up for us, just want to get your reactions to her wonder about her own work. And for those of you like, seriously, this is way harder than you think it is. Trust me.
How satisfying it is to know that I have earned a readership that is that large, as large as it is. I stood at the border, stood at the edge, and claimed it as central, and let the rest of the world move over to where I was.
Yeah. How beautiful is that? How noble is that? How free is that? I stood at the margins and let everybody else move over to where I am.
So you just want to be like, yes. I mean, you just, as you're listening to that, right? You're like, yes, right? There's also a part of me, if I just have a little shade, because I feel like the person interviewing her is like, interesting. And but her words, right? She's writing about, quote unquote, people who always function at the margin. She's writing about Pecola Breedlove, right? She's writing about little Black girls in Ohio. She's writing about, some Black man in some small town somewhere and ain't nobody ever heard of him. And she is saying, but this is my center, right? And so you come on over here where we are. And And absolutely the audacity of her brilliance, right? The audacity of her brilliance to say, I don't care if you don't censor me. So she reminds me, of course, of someone like a Zora Neale Hurston as well. I don't care if you don't censor me. I don't care if you don't want to hear my stories. These stories are my center. And guess what? If you come over here to where I am, then you're the center of my universe, right? The audacity to claim a universe where she stands fully flat-footed at the center. Is that Black girl reading her? Is that, as Edwidge Danticat shared, her daughter reading her this summer and saying, I'm at the center of my story.
Yep.
What a powerful gift she's given us.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also because she's so, because she's so well read, right? And so read in a multiple disciplines and across genres, and, she's reading the Russians and she's reading the French. She knows that these stories, that this world that she wants to reveal, these stories that she wants to tell, that are inspired by that place in the margin, that they are as rich and as indicative of humanity, right? And that she can bring those stories and just sit them alongside any story there is. I mean, she's minoring in the classics and she sees how the Greeks are constructed. She's read the Hebrew Bible and she knows how the Old Testament Hebrews are given to us through stories. And she's like, well, Black people, they got those stories. I got those stories to tell about them too. So she's never seeing that as something narrow, right? She's fully aware that this world sits side by side with all these other worlds that she's been able to inhabit through literature as writer and as reader.
Yep, and to add to that, as we invite the other panelists to turn their cameras back on and begin to think about our closing remarks, I would add to as writer, as reader, and then the thing that I have to come out of my rabbit hole thinking about is as actor. Because as you recall, at Howard and beyond, she was on the stage for many years, tried her hand at it with something in New York, New Orleans, but I am thinking about this thing that she said, well, her best time, the time she enjoyed the most at Howard wasn't in the classics department where they wouldn't let her write about Shakespeare. It was really her time on the stage. So I go down to the Howard Players rabbit hole to figure out what exactly is it that she's reading. And then you all have probably seen this kind of regal, or what play she's working on, this regal picture of her as Queen Elizabeth. So she also understands how to build a character, how to give a character voice, how to think through scenes and setting. All of that, I think, is a part of her repertoire, and the irony of the critique of someone like Owen Dodson putting on traditionally white plays that they would then perform. The irony of that in this moment where she can say, oh, I can interpret that, which in the kind of chase, Dodson would always have his students write essentially Black versions of Euripides, or what would this story look like in your community? So that's really, really fascinating. No, Deb, come back. Deb, Amani.
I'm back.
Okay. Mariama, Edwidge, if you guys are here.
Hi there. It won't let my video come on.
All right, let me see if I can allow. There we go. I think that's it. And so one of the things that I was alluding to as we were going with the clips is people who are on the other side of this. If you haven't run a Zoom live, don't judge. That's all I'll say. So as I'm saying, where is it? How can I do this? It's a little harder than it looks. I think we have everybody except for Deb and Carolyn. Are you guys gonna come?
I had to turn on the lights. It was dark in my study.
All right, here we are. So I have one correction before we give you all the space to have your closing remarks. I said, I think for the last segment that Farah and Yolanda knew Ms. Morrison personally, and it occurred to me, this is the first time that I've been on a panel where everybody knew Ms. Morrison personally. Yeah. So let me correct myself and to say that all of us had wonderful moments and opportunities to interact with the person. And I think that that speaks to her spirit as well. She was never closed off, like, stay away from me, I'm Toni Morrison. Always very, very open, loving and giving. And her greatest gift to us, I think, continues to be her writing. So I would say that you show up on the screen differently based on where you are. So I would say let's go from top to